Hello and welcome to the Mill. Dawn and I are back today. Today is Easter Friday. It is a very rainy day at the Mill.
It is. That's awful.
And Dawn and I are going to start our podcast now with a chaotic moment of clarity for each of us. So we've both been thinking about what would be a really good thing to share with you that kind of shows both how our lives can be both chaotic and clear at times. So Dawn, go on, tell us a little bit about your...
Oh God, right, okay. So this week, my chaotic moment would definitely be waking up on Sunday and deciding to buy a caravan. So yeah, we bought a caravan on Sunday and we also bought 3 lambs. So that was my moment of chaos because it felt right at the time, which is fine. But the clarity though is I then started to do a list and a chart, and I'm actually going to do a contract on who's going to look after the lambs, what days they will need feeding, who's going to do it. So that's made me feel better. And we've also given us a 4-week window on putting the fencing up, getting the food in. But yeah, with the caravan, that's obviously going to be for the glamping site. So we're going to do that up slowly. But yeah, that was a really random Sunday morning purchase.
Amazing. Yeah. I absolutely love that combination of just chaotic purchasing and then clarity, kind of figuring out what we're going to do with it. That's a brilliant example.
Poor Steve. What about you, Freya?
So, as some of our viewers might know, I have been travelling recently. So my moment of chaos was being delayed and stuck in Atlanta airport.
Oh, God.
So I had been travelling for probably about 24, 25 hours. It was 2:00 in the morning Atlanta time. I have no idea what time it was, my body clock time. And my flight was cancelled. I was stuck in Atlanta and I was trying to ring hotel rooms to find where I could stay for the night. And I could feel myself getting more kind of like anxious, stressed, worried. So luckily, because of the time difference, I was able to call home, spoke to my husband, who was amazingly supportive and helpful. And then I kind of like, after speaking to him, I just had that quiet moment in Atlanta airport, kind of forgot about or stopped worrying about maybe what other people might be looking at me. I just kind of sat down on the floor, cross-legged. I did some deep breaths. And in my mind, I thought to myself, do you know what? This isn't that bad. I am safe. I'm okay. And then that kind of mantra in my head of this too will pass.
Yeah.
This too will pass. I did some deep breathing. So I did my box breathing. And I was able to kind of, ring up a hotel, finally found a room. So yeah, it was that moment of real chaos and I could have get swept up in it.
Yeah.
But actually I was able to kind of take a pause, seek some support from someone, which is always a really good idea. And then just take that breath. And one of the things I love about using breathing as a sort of a tool is it's always with me.
Yeah.
So, it's great to have these things, so fiddle toys or things like that with you as calming, but sometimes you don't always have them with you. So for me, my breath is always with me.
Yeah.
So I can always anchor it. And I've got so many different breathing techniques that I can use that I'm sure we will talk about one day on the podcast.
Yeah.
So today, Dawn, I'm really excited. We're going to talk about transitions. And today's episode is called Big T and Little T. Yeah. So in my mind, I like to think about neurodivergent people are going to struggle with transitions on 2 different kind of levels. So the big T transitions, so a capital T in my mind, those are things that are big life transitions. So maybe moving house, having a baby, getting married, starting a new job. They're kind of like big transitions that are really obvious to all of us. But there's also little T transitions. So I imagine those as sort of like everyday battles, really. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about both of those things. And I know you've got some amazing strategies that you do to manage. And we'll share our sort of strategies and our struggles. And hopefully it'll be really useful for everybody.
Yes.
So Dawn, to start off with, go on, tell me a little bit about some of your kind of big T transition moments and how you might manage them.
Funnily enough, I actually don't struggle with big T's.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I do anyway. So if someone comes to me with a huge problem, or if I'm going on holiday, or if I'm moving house, or as we all know, I'm on my 5th salon move at the moment. So I like to move my business as well. I actually thrive off those big T's.
Fantastic.
But like you've pointed out to me, I do have big coping strategies and tools that I didn't realise that I used to do that. So everyone knows I love a list. I've got post-it notes everywhere. I've always got a notepad on me.
Yeah.
Always. So obviously that's the way I do that without even realising that that's the way I do that.
Yeah.
It's actually just little T's.
The little T's,
that I would struggle more with.
Brilliant. And that's and we're going to come on to those in a moment. But I was going to say there's another thing that I know you do, which is another wonderful strategy as well, as that deep diving and research when there is a big transition.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how you manage that and what you do with those kind of research findings. I think that's an amazing skill.
Yeah, I am a researcher, Freya. Yes, love a bit of research. So, an example, we're going on holiday this year.
Yeah.
For the first time in 10 and a half years, I am putting me and my family on a plane, and I am really looking forward to it. But getting to that point of what holiday?
Yeah, that's a big T transition.
It is. And it was okay. I had to do a lot of research. Obviously, one of my children has severe allergies. So that is a big part of, if we're going to an all-inclusive hotel, what if there's nuts there?
Yeah, there are things you've got to think about.
Yeah, what if the allergies aren't good enough in my eyes for my child to eat there?
Yeah.
I'm not going to risk that.
No.
So obviously I had to do deep dive research within an inch of its life.
Wonderful.
And we found a group of hotels that I've watched YouTube channels on these hotels, on people's reviews. I have deep dived. I'm a hairdresser, obviously, as you know, and I've asked at least 200 clients if they've heard of this chain of hotel, and so many people have, and they've gone and used it because they have allergies.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so for me, that was one of the.
Yeah, what an amazing strategy though, because I could imagine somebody who maybe didn't do that beforehand going to a new hotel and not knowing that information could have caused somebody, as a parent, to feel really, really anxious for their young person.
Yeah.
But the fact that you've kind of done that deep dive, you've done that research, you can now feel really confident in that big T transition.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So that was all researched. I've got pages and pages of notes and it's all booked and we're all going, and I'm looking forward to it.
As I say, maybe one day we'll talk about holidays as well on the podcast and think about how we manage holidays.
Oh, I know, yeah. Ask me in September.
For me, I think when I'm thinking about big T transitions, I often think about things like, a house move. And we know for everybody, whether you're neurodivergent or whether you're neurotypical or whether you're sort of somewhere in between, we know everybody struggles with house moves. Those sorts of things are kind of considered to be really stressful. And I think for me, whenever I'm, approaching a big transition, whether that be a move in my job, a move in my home, even a new car, something where how I usually do things is going to be the case, because we know neurodivergent people like things to be predictable.
Yeah.
They like to know what's coming next. They like that kind of feeling of safety and predictability. And obviously when we're doing something new and we have that transition, suddenly we don't know what's going to come next. Suddenly there's so many different possibilities or opportunities. Some things can be good and some things can be bad. But I suppose it's not, we're not always knowing whether we're going to be ready for them. And that's one of the reasons I love your planning and deep diving strategy, because that kind of manages that on both sides. So for me, I suppose one of the things that I do when I know I'm approaching a big T life transition is just recognizing that it's going to be tough. Allowing myself some grace, giving myself that additional rest time, almost kind of like booking in, I know I'm going to be dealing with this big T transition today and tomorrow, but maybe the next day I'm going to book that in as a day where I just don't think about it, a day where I kind of just, watch TV, spend a day, go for a walk, chill with my dog, do something that it really takes my mind off all of those new things. Is there a big T transition, Dawn, that you've been through that was particularly exciting or particularly daunting, or anything else that you can think of? So I know you're talking about your salon moves as well.
Oh, yeah. So whilst I'm in the planning stage of the salon and I'm going to look at properties and I'm redesigning and I'm doing actually mood boards or colours or logo changes.
What another amazing strategy, Dawn.
I love all that. I absolutely love all that. The actual reality of it, though, is always... Sometimes I just have to come home and go to bed for a couple of days.
Okay, brilliant.
Do you know what I mean? When you're in it, the planning and I could plan a world party. I might not turn up to it.
I love that.
I could plan it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So again, I think that's another really wonderful strategy that you talked about there.
Yeah.
That mood boards.
Yeah.
So if you are approaching like a big T life transition, I think making something visual is so useful for neurodivergent brain.
Yeah.
So, almost sometimes if I was thinking about, so in my head, I'm imagining your salon now.
Yeah.
And if I was thinking about, okay, what I might need, my brain could just have all those little images, but that feels quite chaotic. But actually putting it down onto paper, so like you were saying with a mood board, cutting things out, sticking things down, even, I suppose virtual or electronic mood boards where you put pictures in things like Pinterest. By seeing something visual, we know that neurodivergent brains process things much better when they're concrete rather than when they're kind of like all in the air. So I think you've shared some amazing strategies for our listeners there, Dawn. It's definitely about preparing and planning. It's about, making something visual and concrete, taking some time out and resting, and then deep diving. Brilliant. Oh, it's great. And I'm sure we will do loads of deep dives on the podcast as well, guys. And then I suppose what I also wanted to talk about, because these sorts of things, I think, go under the radar a lot of the time for our neurodivergent people. We don't always recognize them as much. And these are, for me, are what I call my little T transitions. And they are the everyday life struggles or the everyday daily battles. And in my head, I sort of think of them as, if I'm going for a shower, it's a little mini transition, but I'm going from a dry state to a wet state and then back to dry again. And just even those little mini transitions, there are so many of those in the day that can really build up for a neurodivergent brain. And you were giving me a wonderful story before we started, and we were talking about you washing your hair yesterday. So go on, enlighten us with that one, Dawn. I think that illustrates our mini transitions, our daily battles beautifully.
I know. And you think when you're struggling with something, these thoughts are in your head, but you think you couldn't possibly say it out loud because it sounds ridiculous. But last night, washing my hair from 4 o'clock, I said, right, I'm going to go wash my hair so I look clean for the podcast today. I had to wash my hair. And I did everything in my power to not do it. And the thought of having to go and wash my hair, it was like go and climb Snowdon.
Yeah.
It felt like that.
Yeah.
You can't say that out loud because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's how it felt.
Yeah.
I was sorting my towel cupboard out.
Yeah.
I was in the kids' bedroom talking to them about
lots of side quests I'm hearing.
Procrastination at its best, Freya.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think that's really interesting because if you said to somebody, oh, I'm moving salon, big T, everyone would be like, oh, that must be so stressful. That must be so difficult for you. And you're like, and people give you that sort of like grace and they understand that. If you tell somebody, I'm really struggling with just washing my hair, people are like, don't be ridiculous.
You're a bloody hairdresser.
What do you mean?
Struggling washing your hair.
That could be one of the easiest things in the world for you.
Yeah.
But for lots of our neurodivergent brains, it's like, actually, do you know what? That little transition from wet hair to dry hair, dry hair to wet hair, all of those things actually can feel much, much bigger. And like you said, almost can feel like you're climbing Everest.
Yeah, it can. And funny you should say that because so many people assume, because I'm a salon owner, I get my hair done in work all the time for free. You own your own salon.
Yeah.
But actually, me changing from salon owner to customer, I actually really struggle with
that. That's another transition.
Yeah, the thought of sitting in a chair and having someone do my hair is really difficult.
That's such a good example.
Yeah.
That's a really amazing example of kind of like, I suppose for me, that's almost like a big T and a little T because it's like it's your whole career, but it's also shifting and it could be a daily thing as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that example. I love that. For me, I've got some really weird little T transitions that other people may get or they may not get. But for me, so I really like getting stuck into. So if I'm working, I love working and I will be working away and kind of like, really in there. I'll be reading, I'll be typing, and then maybe I need a drink or maybe I need, something to eat. It might be lunchtime or maybe I even need the loo. And the idea of transitioning and stopping from what I'm doing just feels almost impossible because actually I'm engaged and kind of locked into that activity. And then I can feel like, okay, so then I might have a break because I know I need to. I know I need to look after my physical health because sometimes, that's not great if I'm not drinking. So I'll go and grab some water, and then I come back to sit at the laptop, and the transition for starting again can feel really, really tricky. So so for me, there are some little things like that in a kind of like daily transition that I find really tricky. And then my husband, Rick, who will laugh at this, and my mum will remember from when I was little, is I'll kind of also sometimes, if I'm doing something that needs like a transition point, I'll almost kind of go into a freeze state. And so many times people and people who've either lived with me or know me really well, you know, I might be doing something, they're like, what are you doing? And I literally will just be sitting looking at something in a kind of like vague way, and that's me almost like preparing for that transition. And it might only be a really, really small thing, like getting dressed, having a shower, tidying a room, although it's really unlikely it'll be tidying. If I was tidying a room, the level of procrastination that would probably extend would be huge. But yeah, for me, those little T transitions can be really tricky. Have you got any strategies, Dawn, that you can do to think about how you manage those little T transitions? Anything you do to kind of support yourself?
Oh, goodness. I mean, I love a list.
Wonderful.
I have to live from a list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, depending on how overwhelmed I am in what part of my life and what's going on, sometimes I have to do a list from 7 a.m. for every 15 minutes.
I love that.
Which sounds a bit obsessive, but sometimes my head needs that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, your head is breaking down those tasks.
Every 15 minutes. And then after a week or so, I can do it every hour. Yeah. And actually, my lists at the moment in my point in life right now are just Tuesday lists, Wednesday lists, Thursday lists. But yeah, I personally, for me, I love a list. I
think that's a fantastic idea. And what I love that 15-minute idea, I love breaking down that list, because again, sometimes the way neurotypical people and the way neurodivergent people make lists is quite different. So for example, a neurotypical person, let's start there. Neurotypical person might write a list and they might say, do the shopping.
Oh.
Okay. Go shopping, because that's all they need. They know they need to go shopping, and then they maybe need on the list, I need milk. Yeah, and that's why I need to get. What do I need to do today? I need to go shopping, and I need to get milk.
Yeah.
So okay, if I'm a neurodivergent person, if I think about going shopping, that is not one thing on my list.
No.
Going shopping on my list is
a list.
Is a list in itself. So going shopping is, okay, I know I need milk because I've run out, but I also need to check, do I need anything else? So I need to so that's looking around the kitchen.
Yeah.
I need to get the bags. I mean, whether I get the bags or not is touch and go. The amount of times we're in a supermarket without the bags and you have to buy more bags.
And even if you take the bags, they'll stay in the boot.
They will.
And you'll be at checkout, you'll be like,
bags! The bags are in the boot. And then it's that decision, do I just buy more bags for life?
Always.
Do I kind of struggle taking it out?
No, I always push buy more.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, we probably have the most bags for life ever. I love that. But yeah, so it's not just go shopping. It's remember the bags. It's drive the car, but the car hasn't probably got petrol in it. And then you've got to go to the shop. Then while you're walking around the shop, you've got to remember things you've got to buy.
And which shop?
Which shop? Like, are there different shops? Have you remembered your purse? Have you remembered the pound for the trolley? Yeah.
So I need to transfer money. Have I got enough money in my account?
Oh my goodness. All of those things. And then when I get home, it's not finished because I've got to put the shopping away. I've got to put those bags for life back somewhere where I won't remember them.
And I have to tidy the kitchen before I put it away, because that's just one of my little rituals. I can't put it away until everything's been cleaned. So
again, so in my head, you know, those little transitions, things from doing one activity, actually for many neurotypical brains, they're like, yeah, it's easy because that's just one activity. We move from A to B to C to done. Neurodivergent brains like yours and mine's, we go A to B to C to T to D, and we're on like, you know, Z or X, Y, Z, and we're going through exactly, and we're going through them all again. So our brain sees that kind of detail. That's another reason why transitions can be really tricky for neurodivergent
we
people.
Overcomplicate it so much, don't we?
I think our brains can overcomplicate it, but I also think there's something beautiful in the detail. And I think that's one of the things that's been brilliant for the things that you shared today is the strategies that you've used aren't necessarily neurotypical strategies to deal with those things. They are proper beautiful neurodivergent strategies. Now let's deep dive in this. Let's figure all of those things out. So for me, I think that kind of, you know, it's using strategies that work for you, not for other people. And sometimes you and I might even talk about strategies that I might say, oh, this works for me, Dawn. And you'd be like, oh my goodness, that would never work for me in a million years.
Yeah.
And, you know,
vice versa. Yeah.
Exactly. Sometimes we're going to really figure out what is not only a neurodivergent strategy that's really great and helpful, but what also is a personal Dawn strategy.
Yeah.
So hopefully I think we've covered some good ground.
Yeah, I've just learned so much from you again.
I was going to say, I've learned just as much from you with your strategies and things. I think that's why we make a great team with Chaotic Clarity.
Yeah.
So if you've liked what you've heard, you want to hear more, please comment below, you know, any topics you'd like Dawn and I to cover. We will continue to talk at each other, learn, and we will see you all soon. So like and subscribe.
Yes, like and subscribe. Thank you guys. See you on the next one.
See you.
Bye.